The year's 2004 and college football has a massive problem. The system designed to produce one clear champion just failed in spectacular fashion. LSU was our BCS national champion, yet USC also had a claim at the title, finishing as the AP's top-ranked team.
I think we just won the national championship.
Even worse, we were left having to debate what could have been if only we got that one final game.
USC and LSU close together. I think USC would beat them.
The BCS was now on a 6-year run of creating more chaos than clarity. So going into 2004, while tweaks were made, the pressure to deliver was enormous. The season's purpose was clear. Could the BCS finally bring college football the clear champion it promised? Or would the sport find itself right back in the same chaotic debate? From the jump, it seemed at least one spot was locked up. With Leinart back under center, the Trojans entered as heavy favorites. They had to replace Mike Williams, who was stuck in NCC controversy, but they had the terrifying combination of thunder and lightning running their backfield, along with a ferocious defense led by All-American Sean Cody. Across the country, Oklahoma was right behind them. Jason White was back and more motivated than ever after falling just a play short, and he was joined by a 5-star true freshman who was one of the most exciting running back prospects in years. But their path wouldn't be easy. California was building something special behind Aaron Rodgers. Urban Meyer had Utah ready to explode onto the scene, and Texas was getting more legit with the pairing of Cedric Benson and Vince Young. Down south, there were a handful of powers fighting for position. LSU looking to defend their crown, Georgia desperate to finally break out, and there was Miami and Florida State, both searching for their former glory, not to mention an overlooked Auburn team hiding in the shadows. So with all these contenders, the race was on to see if the BCS could deliver what it promised, and we'd get clarity immediately as the top-ranked Trojans squared off with a dangerous Virginia Tech team to open the season. USC was supposed to dominate, motivated from last year's slight, but they quickly found themselves in a dogfight. Fortunately, they found their star just in the nick of time. Reggie Bush was a one-man wrecking crew, single-handedly carrying his Trojans to victory that night. After that big win, the Trojans hit the accelerator. Lendell steamrolled Colorado State. Then Reggie doubled down on why he was the nation's most dangerous weapon against BYU, before refusing to let USC's mission be undone against Stanford. In September, the question quickly became, who was good enough to join them in the championship race? Out west, that Cal team confirmed they were a real challenger. Aaron Rodgers started the season with pinpoint accuracy, while JJ Arrington was putting up early Heisman contending numbers. The Golden Bears looked like they'd have the firepower to threaten USC in October, just like they had done 1 year ago. Nearby Utah quickly showed they were more than just a cute underdog story, as they blasted Texas A&M to launch their BCS campaign in style. Yet for all the noise out west, Oklahoma had to be the scariest challenger. We knew what they had with the White to Clayton connection, but now they had Adrian Peterson. And after his Oregon game, it looked like the Sooners didn't just have some talented freshmen, but had one of the most dangerous players in the country. Meanwhile, Texas was saying, look what we got. Vince Young was quickly becoming the most dynamic quarterback in the nation, while Cedric Benson was reminding everyone that he was the top running back. And their escape against Arkansas made it feel like this could be their year. But it all come down to their 4-year problem waiting for them in Dallas. While some teams were emerging, others were already starting to wobble. The Buckeyes just skated by Marshall, then barely got past NC State. It felt like only a matter of time before they paid the price for their lackluster offense. Michigan wasn't so lucky. They looked dangerous early with Braylon back, but a hungry Notre Dame team was waiting for them, one that was humiliated last year, and one that turned the Wolverines into one of the season's first casualties. The other happened down in Miami, when a last-minute Sonoris Moss touchdown, combined with a devastating overtime Florida State fumble, allowed the Canes to take down their rivals. But down in the SEC, things looked shakier than ever. Georgia barely escaped South Carolina, then sleepwalked through Marshall. Meanwhile, LSU needed a miracle just to survive Oregon State, while Tennessee needed a game winner to inch past the Gators. The SEC was wide open for the taking, and that set the stage for the biggest game of the month. LSU, the wobbly defending champions, against a surging Auburn team powered by Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown. It'd be a bruising early season fight to find out who was actually built for the race. LSU got on the board first and controlled most of the game, keeping both backs relatively in check. Then suddenly, the entire game flipped like a switch. After Auburn's fourth quarter prayer, they barely avoided catastrophe, before finally finding pay dirt with just over a minute left. Yet the game would ultimately be decided on one of the most controversial calls of the young season. Saban was in disbelief, but just like that, Auburn went from a dangerous SEC team to a legitimate national contender. But while the national picture was starting to take shape, the month of October always finds a way of exposing contenders who are really just pretenders. And the first team to get exposed happened up in Illinois. After back-to-back weeks of barely squeezing past lesser opponents, the clock finally struck midnight on the Buckeyes, as a shocking Mike Nugent missed kick sent the Buckeyes title hopes sailing. Next up was Lee Corso's title pick, the West Virginia Mountaineers. They too had recently escaped with a win, only to get hunted down by Virginia Tech, a team desperate for revenge after West Virginia took them down the last couple of years. But they weren't the only Virginia team to fall. The Cavaliers, who soared up the rankings behind Heath Miller, also had their Cinderella dreams stuffed shut. Down south, the third-ranked Bulldogs looked revived after crushing LSU in a dominating win, only to get stunned by Tennessee the very next week. On the flip side, the surging Tigers were solidifying themselves as a legit title contender. They blasted Tennessee, forcing the Volunteers into 6 turnovers as the 1-2 punch of Cadillac and Ronnie Brown looked like college football's most dangerous duo. If they could survive Georgia and take care of business in the Iron Bowl, they'd have a resume the BCS could not ignore. But they weren't the only team flying up the ranks. Wisconsin, led by their own star back Anthony Davis, was suddenly becoming another problem for the BCS as they took out Ohio State and a top 5 Purdue team in back-to-back weeks. Meanwhile, Utah was strengthening their own case to be a party crasher, as Alex Smith was putting up video game numbers all month. But the fate of the season hung in the balance on October 9th. In Los Angeles, Aaron Rodgers was 1 win away from a clear path to the title while shocking USC once again in the process. Meanwhile, out in Dallas, the stakes could not have been higher. On the red side, Stoops was desperate to get back to the mountaintop, especially after falling a possession short 1 year earlier. And on the orange side, Mac Brown was possibly coaching for his job, especially since he lost the last 4 meetings by an average of 30. Right off the bat, the Longhorns showed they were built different this year. Even when they bent, they wouldn't break, forcing Oklahoma to settle for 1 field goal after another. But the Sooner defense was even better that day, forcing 1 fumble after the next from the Longhorn Stars, including a back-breaking one from Young late in the 4th. Combined with an incredible 225-yard bell cow performance out of the true freshman, and Oklahoma did just enough to earn their 5th straight win over Texas. As Oklahoma solidified their title chances in Peterson's Heisman campaign, USC was fighting for their lives in the Coliseum. Aaron Rodgers went to another level as he picked apart the Trojan defense, completing 23 straight passes. But USC's weapons were abundant. If it wasn't White, it was Bush. If it wasn't Bush, it was Smith. Yet the hero for USC would be their defense, who stood tall with a massive final red zone stand to deny Rodgers an all-time game winner. But as USC survived their biggest test, the final weekend of October exposed 2 of the nation's biggest programs. For 2 weeks, Miami looked susceptible. If not for an incredible 4th quarter Devin Hester punt return, they likely don't put together their comeback against Louisville. Even the following week, they needed Hester once again, along with big throws out of Berlin to overcome an ugly first half against NC State. But on Halloween weekend, time ran out for Miami, as UNC stunned the Canes on a game-winning field goal. Not too far away, their rivals would find the same fate. Like Miami, the Seminoles had barely escaped on a few occasions, especially the week prior in a 3-point win at Wake Forest. And just like Miami, their luck ran out on Halloween weekend, as the Terps took Florida State out of the running for good. But as we entered November, the BCS system still had a major problem. Even with Miami and Florida State gone, there were still way too many undefeated teams. USC's talent was undeniable. Oklahoma looked like a freight train behind Peterson. Auburn was running through the SEC. Plus, Wisconsin was now in the picture, and Utah kept destroying everyone in their path. We had 5 teams for 2 spots. It looked like another nightmare scenario. The BCS desperately needed help and almost got it on November 6th. After needing a missed field goal to get past Oklahoma State just 1 week prior, Oklahoma was on the ropes in College Station. But the Sooner defense rallied in the second half, and Jason White reminded the nation why he was a Heisman winner. While A&M missed their shot, the Beavers took aim at USC 4 hours later. But the BCS wasn't going to get off that easy with Reggie Bush on the field. However, Oklahoma's vulnerability in back-to-back weeks, along with USC's narrow escape, put even more pressure on the very top of the BCS equation. The system desperately needed someone to lose, and it would have its best shot left as 5th-ranked Georgia visited Auburn. Instead, it got one of its loudest title arguments yet. The Tigers absolutely blasted the Bulldogs as they made a statement that they were one of college football's most complete teams. Cadillac and Ronnie powered one of the sport's most physical offenses, while their defense was stifling. With a convincing win over a top 5 team this late in the season, combined with their earlier LSU win and their domination over Tennessee, Auburn's resume looked like one of a championship team. On the same day, the BCS would find some relief as the Spartans crushed Wisconsin out of the race. But after that, the rest of the month felt inevitable. USC caught fire from Leinert's Heisman push, highlighted by his 5-touchdown performance and a blowout against Notre Dame. Oklahoma kept pace behind both White and Peterson, who were dueling for the Heisman honors, and Utah finished with a 50-point exclamation win over BYU. None of the contenders lost, which all but guaranteed one thing: the BCS would have to decide, just like it did 1 year ago. But before the BCS could make its choice, one final weekend remained, and chaos wasn't completely off the table. Just ask Oklahoma, who collapsed on this day 1 year ago. However, the Sooners only had to get by a 7-4 Colorado team this time around, and USC just needed to beat a 6-4 UCLA team. Auburn looked like the odd man out, but then the door seemed to fly open for the Tigers. Out in Los Angeles, USC dominated UCLA in the first half, specifically Reggie, who was untouchable. Yet going into the fourth, the Bruins were only one score away from shocking the world. And when Reggie fumbled late in the fourth, full panic set in. His knee may have been down, but UCLA had a chance to make history. The fate of the sport and the prayers of Auburn fans hung in the balance. But even faster than that door opened, USC's defense slammed it shut. The Trojans survived and likely locked up the top spot, which shifted attention to Atlanta. All the Tigers could do was handle their business, and that's exactly what they did. Even when the Vols made things interesting, Auburn hit the accelerator, finishing the season off with an SEC championship over 15th ranked Tennessee. Yet, unless chaos happened in Arrowhead, they'd be the ones sitting on the sideline. And sadly for Tiger fans, that chaos never came. Adrian Peterson ran wild out in Kansas City as the Sooners dominated the Buffaloes from start to finish. So once again, the BCS would have to make a decision it was trying to avoid all year long: 2 spots for 3 perfect teams, each with a strong case to be made. Auburn had done everything a team could be asked. They won the SEC, beat the defending champs, and had a statement win over a top 5 team. But USC had been ranked number 1 all season long and had 2 of the nation's best players, while Oklahoma had been right on their heels all year long with their own pair of Heisman hopefuls. So when the reveal came, it was those 2 who remained at the top. Tommy handled it with absolute class.
I picked the darndest time to go 13-0. For a lot of people ask me, Coach, what do you think about this? You know, you're not considered the national champion. You know, when you go 13-0, you don't even think about it.
But elsewhere, the debate raged. Some were outraged we were once again in this spot.
It's clear that it's a colossal failure here, the BCS. 4 of 7 years. The system just frankly hasn't worked.
Yet many others thought the system worked.
The BCS worked. Number 1, USC. Number 2, Oklahoma.
And that the decision was actually an easy one.
I think it's pretty clear-cut. I think USC, despite their close call against UCLA, should be in the Rose Bowl or be in the Orange Bowl, and I think they should play Oklahoma.
But for the rest of us, we would look to the bowl games to help us answer if the BCS got it right. Auburn was up first and submitted a mostly dominant performance, although the late comeback they allowed did soften their case. Meanwhile, USC absolutely blew the doors off Oklahoma, dropping a 50 burger on the Sooners. To make matters worse, Utah steamrolled Pittsburgh, once again proving they deserved a shot, all while Vince Young looked superhuman in the Rose Bowl and like a player who could beat anybody on a given night. Which leads us back to the question, did we get a clear champion? Would things have been different if Auburn was there instead? What if Texas got a shot, or Alex Smith and the Utes got a chance in a playoff? While we wouldn't get those answers in 2004, the season's legacy would be felt a decade later as it paved the way for the sport's first playoff system. So what do you think? Who deserved to be in that title game? Who would have been the last man standing in a playoff? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked reliving the 2004 season, I think you'll love this next video up on the screen now.